Part 20. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 191. Chapter 191. The visitor is ill-intentioned. Grandma. Mother. Seeing that the old lady was in trouble, everyone rushed over and helped the old lady sit firmly. Jiaxi and Jian both forgot to put their sister down. Jian pulled their hair to keep their balance, and they grinned in pain. It was hard to hear the good news, and my feet touched the ground. I quickly stepped forward and hugged my grandma's thigh, shouting over and over again, "Grandma doesn't cry, Grandma doesn't cry." I don't know when the old lady burst into tears. She hugged her granddaughter subconsciously, wiped her face, and looked at the door. At this moment, Li Lauer had already led the woman in. The woman was half bent and looking at the yard with chattering eyes, which made people look a little unhappy. But the Li family couldn't care less. Li Laozi asked, "Why are you looking for Li Zhensheng? He is our eldest brother. He has been away from home for many years. When did you see him? What do you want to do with him?" Li Lauer turned around and wanted to see Lu Biatu and others off, but Lu Biatu saw the Li family acting like this and already knew it was a private matter, so he waved his hand and left. The woman probably relaxed a little when she saw that she and the Li family were alone, so she stood under the oil lamp and asked with a smile, "Sister-in-law, don't you recognize me? I am a Miao from the village next to you. The eldest daughter-in-law of the family." Miao's eldest daughter-in-law. Everyone was a little confused after hearing this, but Mrs. Li thought about it and said, "Oh, it's you. I remember that you went out to work many years ago and never returned to your hometown." Mr. Miao and his wife knew each other well, so he followed the conversation and sat down next to the old lady. "Yes, sister-in-law, I didn't expect us to meet here. I heard something happened over there in my hometown, and the barbarians robbed them badly. I wonder if everyone has escaped? What about everyone in our village?" Sample. Mrs. Li was anxious and wanted to know the news about her eldest son, but she responded patiently, "At first, we all fled south in a hurry, and we couldn't care about others. But I didn't hear that anyone was killed by the barbarians. He probably came out early and was not caught up by the barbarians." "That's good." Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law clapped her hands happily, her eyes couldn't help but glance at the Li family's yard and house, her expression full of envy. "Sister-in-law, your family is very prosperous, and this courtyard is really grand. I heard that the hot springs in the valley belong to your family. How lucky you are. It is simply a cornucopia. I can count on my sister-in-law to take care of it in the future." While she was talking, she saw Jiyan was white, plump and cute, and she wanted to reach out and pinch Jiyan's face, but Jiyan dodged him. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru came out of the kitchen. Seeing this, Tao Hongying quickly picked up her daughter and said with a smile, "This child knows how to live." Old Mrs. Li couldn't help but asked, "Old sister, why did you want to find my boss just after you entered the house?" Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law waved her hands and was about to speak when she suddenly held her stomach and looked a little embarrassed and pained. "Well, sister-in-law, I walked more than 10 miles to get here. I haven't eaten yet and my stomach hurts from hunger." Old Mrs. Li took a deep breath, suppressed the irritability in her heart, and told her daughter-in-law, "If you have anything ready-made, bring some first." Miao's eldest daughter-in-law immediately laughed and shouted, "It's best to have a bowl of noodles with more meat and 2 poached eggs. I heard that your fourth daughter-in-law is the best at cooking, so I want to try it today." No one responded, even the most stupid people could understand now. It is not certain whether this Miao boss's wife knows anything, but she is definitely here to take advantage. As expected, she refused to reveal a word about Boss Li. She kept gossiping and her eyes were glued to the kitchen. Old Mrs. Li was holding back her anger. She wanted to drive people away, but at the same time she was looking forward to the news that she really had an eldest son. The eldest son, who was admitted as a scholar, went out to study and never came home again. Some people said that he was in danger and died outside. Some people also say that he met the daughter of a wealthy family and became his son-in-law. He disliked the poverty of the family and would never come back. It is said that it has a nose and eyes, but it is false, and gradually everyone takes it seriously. The Li family was once ridiculed by people from all over the country, otherwise Li Laoer would not have married a daughter-in-law like Wu Kuiwa at that time. Later, after several years, this matter gradually stopped being mentioned, but it was also difficult for Li Laosan and Li Laosi to discuss marriage. Li Laosan was still diligent, smart and kind. He was favored by the carpenter and was betrothed to the daughter of the family. And Li Laosi was just lucky enough to meet the daughter of an old scholar. It can be said that the Li family was deceived by Boss Li how much they loved their eldest son before, but how much they hated him later. This is why no one in the Li family dares to mention it, and children like Jian and Jia 11 don't even know their uncle's name. Jian is smart, and he has guessed a lot in the past 2 years, but he didn't expect that this uncle would suddenly have news when they had just settled down and their life was improving. Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law was really rude. She ate 2 bowls of noodles and 4 poached eggs in one go before putting down the bowl and chopsticks while rubbing her belly. Perhaps she saw that the Li family looked bad, so she smiled a little guiltily, but she didn't know what she thought of, and her back straightened again. My 4th daughter-in-law is really good at cooking, but this noodle tastes better when cooked in bone broth. Mrs. Li was impatient to listen to her tricks anymore and asked straight to the point, "Can you tell me now where you met our boss?" Miao's wife took a needle from the sewing basket, picked her teeth and said with a smile, "Sister-in-law, what are you in a hurry for? We only met a few times back then, and we didn't have any friendship at all." Mrs. Li pointed to the door, really annoyed, "If you don't tell me, get out." Miao's wife was a little scared. She quickly put down her crossed legs and said with a smile, "Why are you so angry, sister-in-law? Can't we discuss it slowly? You see, I made a special trip and walked so far. Is it time to take a break? Isn't it time to waste your time?" Li Laoer sneered, "Do you mean this for benefits?" Mr. Miao's wife nodded, "Of course. After all, I work very hard. I travel a lot for your family." Before she could finish speaking, Jiaxi suddenly shouted, "Oh, I remembered, she is the same group of people who scolded the leftovers today." Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law's expression changed and she stepped back uncomfortably, but did not wait for her to defend herself. Jiaxi has already talked to Grandma. Today, a guest said that the tea given by Go Sheng was too hot and scolded Go Sheng. I saw it from the side. This person is the slave brought by the guest. He asked for ding at noon. Waiting for the set meal. Li Laoer patted his nephew on the back and asked, "Can I ask the guest's name and where he lives?" "Yes," Jia 11 puffed up his chest proudly, "a guest living in the small courtyard talked to that person and seemed to be familiar with him. Although the abusive guest has left, you can find out if you ask around." "That's it, that will be much more convenient." Li Laoer looked at Mr. Miao's wife and said with a smile, "So you haven't returned to your hometown for so many years and you have become a slave in a wealthy family." Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law seemed to have been stripped of her coat and stood naked in front of others, embarrassed and ashamed. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 192. Chapter 192. The lion opens its mouth. "You don't care what I do." Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law stood up and shouted, "I know where your boss is. Give me money, otherwise I will never tell you and you will never find it." "You should have said this earlier. Why are you pretending to be such a good fellow? Fortunately, our family wasted 2 bowls of noodles." Li Laoer also stood up with a sarcastic smile on his face. "Tell me, how much do you want?" Mr. Miao's daughter-in-law hesitated for a moment, then shouted, 1,000 taels. "As long as you give me 1,000 taels, I will take you to find someone. How much? The Lee family were surprised and angry. 1,000 taels, just for a piece of news. You think our family is being taken advantage of? Everyone was at odds with each other. Boss Meow and his daughter-in-law stopped pretending to be good people and cursed, "You have such a big yard and a hot spring valley where you can earn a fortune every day, not to mention that you can't even get out 1,000 taels. No wonder you guys, the boss of the family, doesn't want you, that's all you are." Before she could finish speaking, Mrs. Lee had already slapped her. The crisp slaps and the burning face made Mr. Meow's wife unable to react for a long time. Old Mrs. Lee greeted coldly, "Fourth brother, I leave it to you. Find out the whereabouts of your eldest brother." "Okay, mother, just watch it." Lee Laozi had been mad for a long time, how could he be merciful now? He called for family justice, took the rope, kicked Mr. Meow's daughter-in-law over, tied them up, and hung them upside down under the eaves of the corridor. Mr. Meow's daughter-in-law was frightened. Her impression of the Lee family was still that of her hometown. Mrs. Lee is still young, a widow with a few children, and most of the time she doesn't say anything when bullied. That is to say, after the son passed the scholar examination, he became proud and prosperous for a period of time. As a result, the son died later. People from all over the country said it was unpleasant, and the Lee family seldom went out. Now that the son is older and the family has money, he is so stubborn. She quickly begged for mercy, "Sister-in-law, I was wrong. I was really wrong. We have something to discuss. I don't want 1,000 taels, but 500 is fine." Unfortunately, the Lee family ignored her at all, and Tao Hongying even pulled a rag and stuffed it into her mouth. It's a pity those 2 bowls of noodles, don't let her spit them out and waste the food. The good news was carried by Jiaran, and he almost laughed out loud as he lay in his brother's ear. "Mom and Dad are so tough and cute, but she is so good at reincarnation." Li Laozi picked a thorn stick in the corner of the courtyard, raised his hand and hit Mr. Meow's wife's back, causing her to squeal in pain and bend her body like a big shrimp. She wanted to beg for mercy, but she couldn't. Li Laozi did not stop, and blinked 7 or 8 times again. "Who gave you the courage to come and blackmail you? Please report it properly. Our family appreciates your kindness and will not treat you badly. But you are out of your mind and you want 1,000 taels. Okay, I will beat you to death today and then send you back to see how much your master wants and whether your life is worth 1,000 taels." Mr. Meow's daughter-in-law was really frightened. She wanted to faint from the pain, and her intestines were so full of regret that her intestines were blue. Had she known that the Lee family was so scary, she would never have even stepped in. At the moment, I can't beg for mercy. I can only hope that I will hear some noise and come to check on her. The Lee family will have some scruples before letting her go. Perhaps God heard her thoughts, and suddenly there was a head on the wall on the right. She was so surprised that she quickly screamed for help. Unfortunately, that was Yeshan. He only glanced at the yard and asked, "Do you need my help?" "I am good at extracting confessions." Li Laozi waved his hand, "Go to sleep, brother Dashan, it's just a small matter, it will be over in a while." Finished. Mr. Meow's wife's head was buzzing, they were in the same group. "My life will be decided here today." She struggled desperately, not caring about money, as long as she could get out alive. Li Laozi smacked her a few more times, and then pulled the rag from her mouth. Mr. Meow's daughter-in-law coughed and said desperately, for fear that the Lee family would be dissatisfied, I said, I saw your boss in Kyoto. He was well dressed and riding a carriage. I followed him all the way and saw him entering a place called Willow Alley in the south of the city. Originally I thought that when life was getting better, I would go and enjoy the autumn breeze, but I saw your second son in the valley. People said that the valley belongs to your family, so I thought of reporting a message." "Humph, the report is false, but the blackmail is real," Li Lao stood aside with his hands behind his back and sneered, shouting, "Fourth, I think she is dishonest. She probably didn't tell the truth. Keep fighting. Yes, keep beating her. She's made Grandma so angry. Beat her to death." Ji and other boys also followed suit, scaring Mr. Meow and his wife so much that they almost peed their pants. "Spare your life, spare your life. Everything I said is true, every word is correct. If you don't believe it, I can tell you that my master's family is the Chu family in Dingza Lane, Zikan, and our master belongs to Kaibu village. I signed a death contract, and I will never run away." Li Lao Si and Li Lao Er looked at each other, and Li Lao Si slapped him twice more before putting him down. Meow's daughter-in-law rolled forward a few times like a worm, crying and begging Mrs. Li, "Sister-in-law, I was wrong, I was just greedy for money, please let me go, I don't dare to do it anymore." Old Mrs. Li was thinking only about her eldest son, so she had no time to pay attention to her. She waved her hand and let Jiyan into the house. Li Laosi kicked Mr. Meow's wife and untied her. "Go away, if you dare to plot against our family again, I will chop off your head." Mr. Meow's daughter-in-law did not dare to say a word. As soon as she was free, she stumbled out and ran out. She even got bumped by the threshold and was thrown hard outside the door, causing Jia and Jiaxi to follow behind and make faces and laugh. Li Laosi whispered a few words to Li Laoer, then called Ji and followed him secretly. In the room, Mrs. Li held her chubby granddaughter in her arms, her eyes a little vacant. The tears she shed and the grievances she suffered because of her eldest son over the years seemed to be all before her eyes. It's not that she wasn't looking forward to this day, but when it finally arrived, she didn't seem happy. She was afraid that her son would abandon the family because of his wealth. Jiyan understands her grandma's mood very well. In her previous life, when she wandered in front of her parents' new homes countless times, she felt so conflicted. While trying her best to find excuses for them to abandon her, she also hated their ruthlessness. Those who have never experienced it have no idea how painful it is to be hurt by a loved one. This kind of pain is far more profound than broken love and betrayal of friendship, and it cannot be cured in a lifetime. She hugged her grandma's neck and said nothing. She patted grandma's back again and again with her little hands. By the time the old lady came to her senses, her granddaughter's shoulders were soaked with tears. The old lady quickly hugged her granddaughter and coaxed her hurriedly, "Why is Fu Niu crying and feeling sorry for Grandma? Don't be afraid. Grandma is fine. Grandma is just curious about what that has become after so many years outside. Grandma is not sad. Real." The old lady was originally trying to comfort her granddaughter, but as she spoke, she still shed tears. "Fu Niu, do you think your uncle's life has been in vain? How come he is not as good as a little baby like you? You know how to feel sorry for Grandma, why doesn't he know how to feel sorry for Mother?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 193. Chapter 193 The Spirit of Self-Sacrifice. Fu Niu loves Grandma, but Grandma doesn't cry. Uncle is not filial, but Fu Niu is filial. Jiyan raised her little hand to wipe Grandma's tears. Grandma and grandson hugged each other, but the tears fell even more. Outside the house, Li Lao Er and Li Lao San also secretly wiped away tears. The fourth child was still young. When he was sensible, the eldest brother was already studying abroad, so we were not very close to him. But they get along with their eldest brother the most and have the best relationship. The eldest brother is smart, polite, cheerful, and joking. Everyone praises him as a good brother. But it is this eldest brother who has become the thorn in the side of the whole family. It's okay if the eldest brother has his own reasons, but if he really wants glory and wealth and doesn't want the family, they can just be sad. But what about my mother? That night, no one in the Lee family slept soundly. After breakfast on the second day, when the sun rose in the east, Li Laosi and Ji Yi hurried back. The whole family looked at them eagerly, and Li Laosi said, "Mom, that Miao boss's wife has indeed sold herself to the Chu family in the west of the city. She probably didn't dare to lie. I want to go see my eldest brother, but I feel bad, I can only come back first." Old Mrs. Li's eyes were covered with red bloodshot eyes. It was obvious that she had had no sleep last night. She thought for a moment and then said, "Don't worry, all of you, so many years have passed, and there are still a few days left. From now on, when you find free time, take turns going to the city and slowly find out about your eldest brother. Don't rush to meet each other. It's better to find out why he hasn't come home for so many years." "Yes, mother, we understand," Li Lao Er and others responded. Li Lao Si and Jia Yi also had a hasty meal and went to work. The orchards and millet fields on the mountains, as well as the riverbanks, are busy at this time, and the valleys are even more crowded, making it impossible to leave anywhere for the time being. Even if they know the news about their eldest brother, they can't abandon everything. After all, this is the whole village's business and the whole village's fields. We cannot delay everyone's business just because they are one family. The whole day, the good news turned into a little follower. Wherever Grandma went, she would follow her. At one moment she was hungry, at another moment she was thirsty, at another moment she peed her pants, and Grandma kept shouting. It really left Mrs. Li no time to relax and think. In the evening, when the whole family came back from work, Mrs. Li called to Mr. Li, "If you take time tomorrow, go to the city and have a look. If you come back early to find out the news, the whole family will feel at ease." Li Laosi was curious as to why my mother suddenly changed her mind. As a result, Mrs. Li sighed and said, "Your daughter is afraid that I will think too much. She has been bossing me around all day, and she secretly peed her pants. You guys should resolve the matter quickly. Don't worry about whether your elder brother comes back or not. Save your mother first." Everyone was stunned when they heard this, and then they all laughed. Ji Yin covered her little face and stayed in her father's arms, refusing to get up. She is a dignified little baby of the Li family. What is she sacrificing her reputation for? It's not to make the old lady sad for a while. Even if no one was grateful, they actually laughed at her for peeing her pants. The Li family finally had laughter because of Ji Yin's sacrifice. On the morning of the second day, Li Laosi and the village chief asked for leave and walked out of the village. As a result, they met Mr. Wen before they had gone far. Mr. Wen was sitting in the carriage, and there were 3 companions of about the same age beside him, all of whom looked like scholars. Mr. Wen smiled and said, "Fourth, where are you going?" "Ah, I have nothing to do, let's go out for a walk." Li Laosi couldn't explain the reason, so he bowed his hands and saluted everyone. Not wanting the mare pulling the carriage to eat the grass on the roadside, she took a few steps forward and one of the wheels fell into the ditch. The carriage was about to topple over. Mr. Wen and others all exclaimed and grabbed the carriage. The driver waved his whip and shouted to the horse to come up, but the horse did not listen. At this time, Li Laosi jumped directly from the ditch, lifted the carriage with both hands, pushed it upwards, and pushed it forward. The horse was forced to take 2 steps to the center of the road, and the carriage was back on the road. The 3 scholars were so surprised that they looked at Li Laosi from top to bottom. "Brother, are you okay? Did you stretch your arm?" "Yes, you just lifted the carriage up like this." "This is too powerful, my arms are probably 500 kilograms strong." "It should have the strength of 1,000 catties. It's 500 catties for the 4 of us, plus the carriage." Who said scholars don't gossip anymore? Li Laozi was hurt by their constant chatter, and he responded patiently, I am born with strong strength, but it's just a matter of hands to lift me out of the carriage. Having said that, he was about to leave, but Mr. Wen stopped him and whispered, Grn is going to study soon. I contacted the academy. All the children of these friends are in the academy. Li Laozi understood, immediately jumped into the carriage, and said with a smile, Sir, you came in a hurry. Originally, there was no room in the hot spring valley. But a guest who had reserved a cabin was unable to come, so gentlemen can have a good day. Mr. Wen and his 3 friends were all happy to hear this, and hurried toward the valley while laughing. At this time, the guests had just arrived, it was not crowded in front of the door, and the valley was relatively quiet. Li Laoer was also happy to see Mr. Wen. Naturally, the journey went smoothly. They went straight into the valley without taking any signs. Li Laozi was afraid that his mother would be worried at home, so he sent someone back to deliver a letter. The family agreed last night that one person would be at home every day and would have someone to take care of her. At least they could not leave all the errands of Ki and entertaining the bride to this little baby Jiyan. Therefore, Grn was on duty at home today. Hearing that Mr. Wen had brought people over and found an academy for Grn, Mrs. Li was very happy. She immediately closed the courtyard door and took her grandchildren to the valley. It just so happens that the person in charge of patrolling the streets in the village today is 4th Uncle Wang. We eat together every day. He is absolutely one of the family members. With a few simple instructions, there is no need to worry about the family. In the valley, Mr. Wen was chatting with a few friends, and hot tea and snacks were quickly delivered. The tea was not half drunk, and washed fruits were brought. Several friends said, we have heard from others that you have property here, but we still don't believe it. It turns out it is such a good place. Mr. Wen smiled and shook his head, you have misunderstood. This is not my property. I just get along with the folks here like family members. You also know that I arrived in Jiangnan half a year late because I encountered some troubles on the way. Fortunately, I also encountered I would have died of cold and starvation in Jiangbei if it weren't for these kind-hearted folks. Oh, there is such a thing, everyone was surprised, because the Wen family's family background would not suffer such danger. Just at this time, Grn came outside the wooden house, and Mr. Wen waved him in. This is the disciple I picked up on the road, and I am going to inherit the teacher's mantle. This child is a child of this village. He is very hard-working and diligent. I need you to take care of him in the future. Grn was wearing a half-worn gown. He was young and tall, but his brows and eyes were calm and peaceful. He raised his hand and bent down to salute everyone, I have met you gentlemen. The person closest to him tried to help him up, but ended up reaching out and grabbing half of the air. The man was startled and shouted subconsciously, why is this child's hand disabled? The baby of the Huahua family caught a cold during the change of seasons. After a busy morning, I finally wrote it. The 3rd update is here. Please give me 5-star reviews and votes for the update, let's work together. Thank you guys. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 194. Chapter 194, A Gentleman Strives for Self-Improvement. The other 2 people also looked over, with surprise in their eyes. How come such an outstanding young man is missing half of his hand? Although the wound seems to have been well treated and the scar is not terribly scary, it is not that beautiful after all. Mr. Wen looked at Grn with his head half lowered. There was no indignation or shame on his face. He couldn't help but like this disciple even more. It was not easy for him to be so indifferent at such a young age. He briefly talked about the dangers he encountered when crossing the mountains, and emphasized that Grn sacrificed his life to save his younger brother. After that, He practiced left-hand calligraphy and achieved some success. The expressions of the three gentlemen changed when they heard this, and they felt surprised and worried for a while. After listening to it, the gentleman who was the first to call out Grn's handicap was very ashamed. "What a good boy! If you don't mind, could you give us some words to read? We usually do some research on writing." Grn nodded in agreement and quickly spread out the paper to grind the ink. He thought about it and wrote a line of words: "Heaven moves vigorously, and a gentleman keeps improving himself." The teenager has only practiced left-handed characters for more than half a year. It cannot be said that it is good to be shocked. It is rare in the world, but it is much better than many people who practice words for 7 or 8 years. Not bad, not bad, the writing is steady and smooth, and occasionally has an edge, which is the way of a gentleman. Yeah, after such a comparison, I can't even use the words. People often say that hard work is important, but I would say talent is the most important. Although this child has lost half of his right hand, his left hand will definitely shine in the future. Brother Wen, Mr. Tang Yuan Tang from Kyoto is also here. He is one of our Tianwu left-handed masters. If we have the opportunity someday, we will take this child to visit. If we can get some pointers, this child will be of great use. Mr. Wen was also happy when he saw his disciple being praised and nodded in response. "I am busy on weekdays and have no time to teach this child more, so I plan to send him to Luoan Academy. I heard that Mr. Tang will also teach in the academy, so I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Haha, no wonder you invited us to play here today. It turned out that you had planned it for a long time." "Yes, we all have children in Luoan Academy. Your disciple hasn't entered the school yet, so we should find some classmates and friends for him first." They all laughed and teased Mr. Wen, but they weren't angry at all. Their nephews are all well educated and have decent moral character. However, they were born into wealth and some do not know the sufferings of the world. It would be a good thing to have a poor student like Grn as a friend. After a few words of laughter, everyone went to the hot spring to soak in the water. The room was naturally more private, but there were many people on the other side of the pool, and a few people who were eager for fun rushed to that side. Grn got free time and went back to the valley entrance. Mrs. Lee and Mr. Lee were all waiting with their legs crossed. Jian is not worried. Mr. Wen used to be a bit decadent and cowardly, but the power of love is great. Ever since Mrs. Kui reconciled with Li, he has exploded into the universe. Now not only has he become a royal censor, he uses his words as a sword, scaring old aristocratic families and upstarts from provoking him. If he is not sure, he will not bring the person. Sure enough, Grn came back and his whole face lit up. Dad, I'm going to study. The teacher found me an academy called Luoan, and there is a gentleman there who is a master of left-handed writing. Seriously, that's great. Old Mrs. Lee pulled her grandson and almost had red circles in her eyes. Ever since the grandson injured his hand, everyone in the family has had a stone tied to their hearts, and now they can finally move it away completely. Jie Huan even hugged her eldest brother and spun him around twice. She was so happy that she went crazy. Hong Ying, Mr. Wen is so busy that he hasn't forgotten about Grn. We have to thank him very much. Make some good dishes for lunch. Mrs. Lee loudly ordered her daughter-in-law and then called her second son. It should be recorded clearly in the books. Our family pays for it ourselves and does not use the public account. I know, Mother Li Lauer also happily agreed, feeling extremely grateful. If it weren't for his poor cooking skills, he would have wished to cook himself. The village chief happened to stroll over. When he heard about such a good thing, he waved his pipe and pot and shouted. Grn is also a child in the village, and it is a good thing to study. Will he not recognize the villagers when he becomes successful in the future? The public account must be followed. Everyone should congratulate Grn. Mrs. Lee thought for a while and stopped being polite. Okay, Listen to the village chief. Grn will study hard in the future. When he succeeds, he will be the support of our village. Sure enough, the village chief was even more happy to hear this. Everyone was chatting and laughing, but Li Laoer thought of his elder brother, so he went to find Mr. Wen on the pretext of thanking him. It happened that Mr. Wen had arranged for some friends to come over and ask for tea. Li Laoer told what happened last night, and finally said, "Sir, our family doesn't know if the eldest brother has any difficulties, and we don't dare to admit him rashly. I just wanted to find out the details of that family carefully. I heard that that family is a branch of a wealthy family, and there are many officials and scholars in the direct branch." Mr. Wen nodded and responded, "Our family, the Kui family, and even the Lu family have been here for hundreds of years. We are naturally more familiar with it than others, so it is easier to find out the news. You and your family can rest assured and wait for my news." "Okay, thank you, sir. Our family can't help you much, but we have bothered you many times." Li Laoer said this sincerely and with guilt. Mr. Wen actually smiled. "We have been friends together through life and death, and Grn is my disciple. They say that once you are a teacher, you are always a father. After all, I will compete with you as my father, so let's stop being polite." Li Laoer also laughed, and the matter was over. Mr. Wen and a few friends had a sumptuous meal at noon, and even drank a few glasses of wine. When they were tipsy, they got into the hot spring pool, and the alcohol evaporated quickly. When the sun set on the top of the western mountain, they left feeling comfortable. On the second day, Li Laoer couldn't hold back his excitement and took Grn and Ji with him to see what Luoan Academy was like. The accounts of the valley were handed over to Lu Biatu's wife. Sister-in-law Lu is originally from Jiangnan. She has been reading and practicing calligraphy since she was a child. She is also gentle and careful. In the past few days, she has been helping with the logistics side and checking the accounts every night, just in case Li Laoer has something to do, so that the valley's accounts will not be left unattended. At dusk, the work in the valley is basically finished, the accounts are clear and the calculations are clear. Everyone was happy. The village chief personally assigned 8 work points to sister-in-law Lu, and asked her to work for Li Laoer from now on. This is the second highest work score among the women in the village. The first is Tao Hongying. The women felt that sister-in-law Lu had given them a good face and that they were close to each other on weekdays, so they asked Tao Hongying to cook 2 dishes and put a pot of wine in to briefly celebrate sister-in-law Lu. The men knew about it and did not dare to stop her. They joked privately and said they were worried about their family status. Nowadays, the women in the village also receive work points and wages, which are not even much less than them. Normally, when I'm in a bad mood, I can still scold him a few times, but now I don't dare to say a word. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 195. Chapter 195 Luoan Academy. The village chief smiled, clicked his pipe and pot, and nodded at the gentleman. "This is good. From now on, the boys in the village will not have to worry about wives. I am afraid that all the good girls from far and near will want to marry in." Thinking about it, everyone thought that this was the case and laughed. "Then our girls are probably more popular. We have been earning work points since we were young, and we have exchanged them for dowries, which is very rich. If the money doesn't go to outsiders' fields, it's better for our girls to marry in our own village, but we can't take advantage of boys from other villages. Yes, the school will be built in the autumn, and my daughter will also go to school to learn writing and arithmetic." The men were squatting in one place, worrying about their wives not to get drunk, and talking about the future. They were all smiling. "With Bentu, I feel full of energy every day, and I never feel tired no matter how hard I work." Not long after Li Laosi stepped into the house carrying the half-drunk Tao Hongying, Li Laoer came back with Grn Ji. The three men all had smiles on their faces. Grn rarely acted like a child, talking about the good things of Luoan Academy around his grandma. Grandma, the academy is just outside the Yunhua mountain a dozen miles east of Xindu. The scenery is particularly beautiful. There is also a small town outside the academy, which is very lively. Many gentlemen in the academy eat in small shops like the students, and they are very easygoing. Look. Many students still carry guqin and flute. I heard that everyone who enters the academy must learn the same instrument. Old Mrs. Lee listened carefully, and the smile never fell off her face. She didn't care if the academy was good or not. If she could make her grandson so happy, she had to go. Jiyan was sitting in the arms of the eldest brother. She was very happy when she heard what he said. She was also happy for the eldest brother. This is what young people should be like, wanton and open-minded, instead of being as deep as an ancient well without waves. Perhaps realizing that he was too excited, Grn blushed and whispered, "Grandma, did I say too much? But this college is really good." Not much, not much. Grandma is happy when you go to school. Grandma will send you off in person when you have good classmates. She will also bring you to our house to play. Mrs. Lee smiled and patted her grandson on the shoulder. Li Lauer said next to him, "The college's training is not cheap, it costs 60 taels a year. Food, accommodation, etc., added together, I am afraid it will cost 100 taels. Mrs. Lee immediately waved her hand and said, "If our family was still worried before, we are not afraid now. The dividends in the valley are at least 300 to 400 taels a year, and there are also melon fields. Those are valuable things and can definitely be sold. A lot of money is enough for my grandson to study." After that, she took Grn's hand and told her, "Grn, when you go to college, concentrate on your studies and don't worry about anything else. Grandma is not the only grandson of yours, and she cannot only love you. If it is your shuxiu, I really can't get it out of my house, I'll definitely tell you, let's find a solution together, so don't worry about it and study hard, you know." Jiyan also nodded his little head, shook the gold bracelet on his hand, and jingled the bell. "Brother, Fu Niu has money, let me read to you." The little girl's arms are as fat as lotus joints, white and covered with gold bracelets, which makes her very cute. The whole family couldn't help laughing. Grn kissed his sister's arm and said, "Okay, my eldest brother is short of money, so I'll ask you to borrow it. When you get married, I'll pay you back tenfold." "Okay." Jiyan raised her chin proudly and looked at Li Lauer. "Second uncle also said that doing business is difficult, look at how easy it is for me." The family couldn't stop laughing. Mrs. Lee gently knocked her granddaughter on the head. "Little girl, you are robbing your brother. What kind of business is this?" The evening wind blew by, bringing with it a touch of coolness that was not there during the day, and also spread the laughter of everyone far away. Mr. Wen didn't keep the Li family waiting for long, and came over at dusk 3 days later. The Li family happened to be setting up dinner, and Tao Hongying quickly added 2 dishes before inviting Mr. Wen to the table. Mr. Wen asked Wen Hai to bring in 2 baskets. One contained most of the eggs, and the other contained 2 hens. "Junior sister asked me to bring this along. Her village is digging a lotus pond. I'm afraid it will take a few days to come here." Digging a lotus pond, Mrs. Lee was surprised and asked, "This is no small job. Do you have enough manpower?" "It's enough," Mr. Wen said with a smile. "Auntie doesn't know something. Some of the people in her village are recruited by the Marquis Mansion. They find some heavy work for these people, and take the opportunity to see what kind of character they are, and those who are lazy and slippery can do it to drive him out." Everyone felt relieved and sat down together to start eating. After dinner, the table was cleared, and everyone drank tea together. Mr. Wen said, "I have made arrangements for the college. Grn can just go there in 3 days." As he spoke, he took a post from his arms. When you get to the gate of the college, just give the post to the disciple. Of course, someone will greet you, and I will go and have a look when I have free time. But most of the time, Grn has to rely on himself to get along with his classmates, adapt to the schoolwork, and take care of his own food and accommodation. In your heart be prepared. Grn quickly took the post with both hands and solemnly thanked him. The Li family are all happy for Grn. Zhao Yuru said, I will rush over the next 2 days to sew 2 new clothes for Grn. Tao Hongying also said, I'll fry a can of meat sauce for Grn and make some more dry noodles. If the food doesn't suit your appetite, it can help your stomach. Li Laoer also smiled and said, Mom, I will send Grn there when the time comes. The good news has long been eager to try, but she has been depressed for a long time and has long been looking forward to going out for a walk. At this moment, she hugged her grandma's neck, twisting her chubby little body into a twist. Grandma, Fu Niu is going, she is going. The old lady was also interested in seeing the place where her eldest grandson would study in the future, but because her precious granddaughter made trouble for her, she quickly surrendered. Okay, when the time comes, whoever can put down their work can follow. Jia and Jia 11 had been looking forward to it for a long time, and they jumped up when they heard this. Oh, I'm going out to play. Sent my eldest brother to school. Everyone was laughing. The 2 naughty boys were working as waiters in the valley. It was most convenient for them to stay away. They had to follow them. Mrs. Li remembered something and said to Mr. Wen, Sir, a school is going to be built in the village in autumn. We cannot let these boys just work as waiters in the valley for the rest of their lives. Do you have a suitable candidate? Can you help our village find one? Mr. Wen nodded, I also pay attention to it on weekdays. Take a look and I will definitely find the right one. Great, these guys are like wild horses, they need to be put on a halter to be more honest. The family chatted for a while, and Mr. Wen thought for a while and said, Auntie, the 4th child told me a few days ago that he wanted to check on a house in Liashu Lane in the south of the city. I sent Yehai to find out. Who is the Wang family? The side branch, the direct lineage is also an old family, and there are indeed many officials and scholars. I also have a colleague from the Wang family who made some insinuations and asked some things. The old lady nervously grabbed the armrest of the chair, trembling her lips for a while before asking, that person from the Wang family, is the boss of my family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 196. Chapter 196 about getting married. Mr. Wen pondered for a moment and responded, the Wang family in Willow Lane only has a family of 4. The couple has 2 sons. The man in the family is called Wang Zhengkaiu. He usually helps with some business at the Wang family's ancestral home. They also have a cloth man. Village, an antique shop, living a prosperous life. Wang Zhengkaiu was good at writing and painting. He was a very good person and had a wide network of friends. However, the only thing that was criticized was that he married into the Wang family. Few people know why he married into the Wang family. There is a vague legend that he married into the Wang family to repay his kindness. The Li family members were silent for a long time. Based on this, no one could be sure that this was Boss Li. In the end, Mrs. Li took a deep breath and said, this is no small matter. The second brother should go to the Wang family and wait. You have to see with your own eyes to confirm whether he is your eldest brother. Li Laoer nodded, okay, mother, don't worry, I'll inquire more carefully after I get there. Mrs. Li thanked Mr. Wen. Mr. Wen waved his hand and said with a smile, I can't help you much. It's been too long, and I can't alert the Wang family. It's not easy to inquire. He didn't want to talk more about the Li family's privacy, so he gave Jiaran a few words before everyone dispersed to sleep. Since Mrs. Kui was not here, Mr. Wen didn't need to avoid suspicion, so he moved in next door. Early on the next morning, Li Laoer and Mr. Wen left together. After arriving in Xindu, Mr. Wen went to do some errands. Li Laoer went to a tea house near Liashu Alley and ordered a pot of tea and a plate of snacks. The tea house may have been around for some time, and the tea customers are all nearby neighbors. It was very lively with people walking birds, listening to music, drinking tea, and bragging. Li Laoer was dressed in ordinary clothes, but his demeanor was not that of a man from the market. The old man at the next table liked to gossip, so he pulled him over and asked, "Does this gentleman look unfamiliar? Are you here to visit relatives or friends?" "Ah." Li Laoer bowed his hands and saluted, and said with a smile, "Uncle Lao asked, Uncle's eyes are really sharp, I am really not a local. I came from the north with the relocation of the capital, and there were always hardships on the road. It's hard to explain in detail. In short, there is only one person left now. Now, let's walk around and see the beautiful scenery and simple folk customs in the south of the Yangtze River." The old man was praised a few times, and the conversation became more interesting. He simply sat down with tea and snacks and chatted with him for a while. "Sir, he seems to be young and educated. He will find a job in the city, marry a wife, have 2 children, and then he will be stable." Li Laoer smiled and poured tea for the old man and joked smoothly, "I thought so too. Recently, there was an aunt in the yard where I stayed, and she insisted that I come and marry her as her son-in-law. I couldn't bear her noise, so I hid out. Take some quiet time." The old man stared at that moment and said, "Tell me whose family it is, and I will help you out. Even the lame and the blind are not willing to do such a shameless thing as getting married. How can I force you to be a good scholar?" "That's right, this old woman is so wicked. She really embarrasses our new capital." A middle-aged man sitting at the table next to him also came over with a birdcage and patted Li Laoer's arm familiarly. "Brother, please don't be tempted. It's not a good thing to get married. How can a noble man live his life based on the face of his in-laws?" Li Laoer pretended to be hesitant and asked, "That's not necessarily true. He must have married into a wife and lived a good life." Just then, the waiter from the tea house came to refill the water and said with a smile, "Sir, what you said is true, there are some people who live a good life. There is a family in our alley who has a bridegroom, and they have 2 sons. They are a harmonious couple. Most people can't keep up with other people's lives." The old man said, "You mean Wang Yuan's family?" "That's different." Li Laoer suppressed his racing heart and asked casually, "What's different? Aren't all the men who marry into wives greedy for wealth?" "That's not the case with Wang Yuan." "Why?" Not only the old man, but also the middle-aged man also objected. The old man frowned and added, "The king is a rare good man. He values affection and righteousness. He has no choice but to marry into the Wang family. He is different from other sons-in-law. Yes, I have known Wang Yuan for several years. I heard that he joined the Wang family in order to repay his kindness." The middle-aged man also agreed. The old man had been holding back the gossip in his belly for many years. Now that he saw that Li Laoer was a stranger and would not reach the ears of the Wang family, he lowered his voice and said, "It's not just because of this. Mr. Wang is a foreigner. When he came to our place a few years ago, he was in danger outside the city. He hit his head and almost died. Mr. Wang happened to come back from his trip and rescued him. He spent a lot of money to help him save a life. As a result, Wang Yuan suffered a severe brain injury and forgot where his home was. He originally wanted to find a job and stay here to recover slowly. But Master Wang suddenly fell seriously ill and there was only an orphan girl left in the family. Naturally, he cared about it and refused to do so. Close your eyes." Finally, Mr. Wang spoke. Miss Wang knelt down and begged Mr. Wang to repay her kindness. The middle-aged man was surprised. Ah, so that's it? I've only heard a few sentences without such details. I only know that it was entrusted to Mr. Wang before his death. The old man said proudly, I was very familiar with Mr. Wang back then. I wanted to send him off for the last time, so I made a witness. Mr. Wang is also lucky. This son-in-law has really gained a lot. There has been no philandering for so many years. Yes, with my ability as a member of the royal family, if I don't get married and take the exam for fame, I will definitely make a difference. Even now in the Wang family, I heard that Wang Yuan is also highly valued. They were chatting with each other in a lively manner, but Li Laoer was almost certain in his heart that this member of the family was his eldest brother, Li Zhensheng. The old man and the middle-aged man probably felt that he was being left out, so they quickly pulled him over to persuade him. It's true that people like Wang Yuan are rare. Most of the people who get married will have a hard time. You have to be careful. Yes, as long as there is a way out, you can't get married. Our place has suddenly become a new capital, and many people have flooded in. You really have no way out. You can just go to any shop and become an accountant. Li Laoer quickly thanked him. Thank you for your concern, uncle, and this old man. I won't get married, otherwise I won't hide out. When I get back, I will change my place to live and find a good job. Hey, that's right. The old man and the middle-aged man both felt a sense of accomplishment, as if they had saved a delinquent young man. Li Laoer couldn't help laughing and poured them tea again. At this moment, someone sitting by the window greeted the tea guests loudly, Wang Yuan is back. Come in and have a cup of tea. The tea house owner also walked to the door and greeted with a smile, yes, Mr. Wang, come in and have a cup of tea. The new tea arrived yesterday. I originally wanted to send someone to tell you at home, but I didn't want you to stop by today. Met. A clear voice responded with a smile, okay, thank you shopkeeper, I'll be here right away. The old man and the middle-aged man had just finished gossiping, and they felt somewhat guilty. They lowered their voices and muttered, Wang Yuan came back really early today. Didn't he come back in the afternoon in the past? Li Laoer could no longer hear this. He held his hands on the edge of the table with trembling hands and slowly turned his head. This is the third update. The weather is not good during the change of season, so you guys should keep warm. Please give me a 5-star review and a book review to remind you of the update. Anyway, I will give you what you want, okay? End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 197. Chapter 197. We brothers are destined to be together. Under the early summer sun, a tall man walked in from outside. He is in his 30s, wearing a thin duck egg blue robe, and a navy blue embroidered cloud-patterned belt tied around his waist. His hair is as black as ink, his eyes are lively, and the corners of his lips are raised when he smiles, making people look like they are in the spring breeze. Friendly and kind. The face in his memory overlapped with that in front of him, and Li Laoer was trembling with excitement. He wanted to speak and call him brother, but before he could speak, tears started to flow down his face. The old man and the middle-aged man still wanted to talk to him, and they were all shocked when they saw this. Brother, what's wrong with you, why are you crying? The man who came in from the door was bowing his hands and greeting the shopkeeper and tea guests. He heard the movement and looked over. Seeing Li Laoer like this, he was obviously stunned for a moment, frowned and tilted his head. The tea house owner was familiar with him and asked quickly, Wang Yuan, do you have a headache again? Wang Yuan smiled bitterly, took a deep breath, and said, suddenly I feel a little uncomfortable. Don't worry. Bring me a new pot of tea and put it in. He thought for a moment and ordered Li Laoer's table. Put it there. That brother is a stranger. I'll join in the fun and chat a few words. The shopkeeper responded loudly, and the old man and the middle-aged man quickly stood up, greeted the king with a smile, and sat next to him. Li Lauer had wiped away his tears at this moment and suppressed all the excitement and ecstasy. He was brought up by his eldest brother. It is impossible for him not to recognize him. From the looks of it, he must have forgotten things. Soon, the four of them were seated and tea was served. Wang Yuan bowed his hands outside and asked Li Lauer, "This brother is really new to me, but is he from Jiangbei?" The old man responded first, "We have been talking for a long time. This brother is really from Jiangbei. He planned to find a job and travel around, so he came to us." Li Lauer also responded, "I originally lived in the north, but the barbarians invaded, so I moved here with them." Wang Yuanwei didn't know what he thought of, his eyes lit up, and he asked, "Brother, do you know any good doctors in Kyoto? Is there anyone with a good reputation who has come to our place?" Li Lauer pondered, hesitating whether to tell Dr. Zhang about it, but the middle-aged man asked, "Is Wang Yuan's headache getting worse?" Wang Yuan waved his hands and sighed, "I have an old problem with headaches, but I can still bear it. I am asking for the child at home. The child was a little weaker when he was born. He suffered from serious and minor illnesses. This time, the wind and cold lasted for half a month. I didn't know what to do, so I thought I'd ask some doctors from the north. They said monks from outside are good at chanting. Maybe it would be better to try another doctor." Everyone nodded. Wang Yuanwei raised his hand to refill Li Lauer's tea and said, "Where is this brother from? As soon as I saw you, I felt familiar and close to you. Maybe we were friends in my previous life. My hometown is Junyang County, southwest of Kyoto." Li Lauer used a teacup instead of a wine bowl and toasted Wang Yuanwei. Everyone thought he was polite and courteous, but only he knew that he was honoring his elder brother, whom he had missed for many years. "You just asked Yuanwei. You are trustworthy. I won't hide it from Yuanwei. I do know a miracle doctor." Wang Yuanwei looked surprised when he heard this. The old man and the middle-aged man also smiled and said, "This is really fate." Wang Yuanwei asked casually, "Brothers can really help?" Li Lauer nodded and responded, "I have nothing to do these days and have been walking around. A few days ago, I went to a place called Broken Gold Beach, 30 miles northeast of Zindu. There is a new hot spring village there, which is very convenient. It's beautiful." The three people except Wang Yuan nodded. "I did hear that there was such a place. I heard that it was a place where a group of foreigners settled. As a result, the hot spring was dug out and there was a quarrel in the court. It was built so quickly, I haven't heard of anyone who has been there. Let's go there for a few days when we have free time. It is said that it has been open for more than half a month. The hot springs there are very good. If you have a sore back or a cold, you can take a dip in it and sweat. You don't need to take medicine." What Li Lauer said was simple and without any exaggeration, which made people more willing to believe it. He added, "The most important thing is that there is an old miracle doctor in Broken Gold Beach, and his medical skills are quite good. Even in Kyoto, no one could hire him. After he took action, he now lives in Rujintan, and occasionally diagnoses people's pulses and prescribes medicine. Recently, many wealthy people go to the hot spring villa just to ask this old miracle doctor to check their pulses." Seriously, Wang Yuanwei was surprised, and the old man and the middle-aged man were also surprised. Then Wang Yuanwei really wants to try it. Even if he can't get a miracle doctor to help, there are only benefits and no harm in taking a hot spring bath for children who are cold. Wang Yuanwei nodded, stood up, bowed his head to the ground, thanked Li Lauer solemnly, chatted a few more words, and hurried home. "Obviously, I went back to discuss with my family and planned to go to Rujintan to give it a try." Li Lauer slowly picked up the teacup and looked at Yuan Wang's back, finally feeling at ease. Seeing that it was getting dark at noon, and the old man and the middle-aged man were about to go back, Li Lauer went out with them, rejected their proposal to have tea together in the future, and hurriedly hired a carriage to leave the city and go home. Broken Gold Beach is as lively as ever. In the mist, guests are chatting and laughing, swimming in the water, and sitting by the pool drinking tea. It is extremely comfortable. Li Lauer walked around and saw that nothing happened, so he hurried back to the new village. Mrs. Li did not go to the fields to weed today. She had just cooked 2 bowls of pimple soup, cracked 2 eggs, and had a simple lunch with her granddaughter. At this time, straw mats and small mattresses were spread under the eaves of the corridor. Jiyan held her belly and was feeling sleepy. From time to time, she raised her little hand to shake the golden bell. The old lady looked funny. She touched her granddaughter's soft little hair and said angrily, "Little money man, you like gold bracelets so much. When the family gets dividends during the new year, Grandma will buy you a pair." "No, read to Big Brother." Jiyan bared her little white teeth, turned over and crawled into Grandma's arms. Old Mrs. Li hugged the chubby little girl. Her heart was filled with sweetness. "Oh, Grandma's lucky girl, you know how much you care about your brother at such a young age. Then let your brother study first, and when you grow up, let him buy it for you. Gold bracelet." Just at this moment, Li Lauer came back. When he saw my mother when he entered the door, he shouted, "Mom, I found my eldest brother. That person is indeed my eldest brother." Old Mrs. Li hugged her granddaughter in surprise and stood up suddenly. However, her eyes went black because she got up so violently that she almost fell to the ground again. Fortunately, Li Lauer stepped forward in time, supported my mother, and lowered his head to look at his niece's big, panic-stricken eyes, which made him feel even more guilty. "Mom, blame me, I'm happy for a moment, but I'm too anxious." "Oh, don't worry about that. Tell me quickly what happened to your elder brother. Didn't he come back?" Mrs. Li was afraid of throwing her granddaughter again, so she put her granddaughter in her arms and circled her. After she had to twitch her head and look out the courtyard door, she was disappointed again when she saw no one. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 198. Chapter 198 Go to School. Li Lauer hurriedly told the story of the encounter in the tea house in detail, and finally said, "My eldest brother must have hurt his head, so he can't recognize me and can't remember home. In a few days, he will definitely come to the valley, then I will find an opportunity to look at his birthmark and have a good talk with him." Yes, your eldest brother has a birthmark as big as a copper coin on his lower back. Let's identify it carefully also. Please invite Divine Dr. Zhang over for dinner tonight. I will personally ask him to diagnose your eldest brother's pulse. The old lady rubbed her hands together anxiously, as if she had too many things to do and was so confused that she didn't know what to do first, and finally shed tears. "Your eldest brother is not greedy for wealth and no longer has a home, is he? Your eldest brother has injured his head and can't find a home, right?" Li Lauer also had red circles in his eyes and nodded heavily. "Mom, my eldest brother is living a good life. He has not endured any hardships. The neighbors all like him. He is still handsome, loves to laugh, and is tall and tall." As he spoke, his tears fell. Even if the eldest brother cannot remember his family or recognize his family in the future, it is enough to know that he is living well. Jiyan raised her chubby hands and wiped her grandma's tears, then went to wipe her second uncle's tears. She was so busy that she finally gave up with a sigh. Because her arms are sore, she'd better let them cry enough first. Jiyan's helpless look made Mrs. Li and Mr. Li laugh. The two of them wiped away their tears and knocked on the fat girl's forehead. "You little child, why are you sighing? Be careful of getting older." Jiyan rolled out of her grandma's arms and rolled around on the mattress, but no matter what the two women said, she soon fell asleep beautifully. In the evening, everyone in the family came back, and they also invited Dr. Zhang, the village chief, Uncle Zhao, and Lu Baiatu to come over. After everyone had eaten and drank, Mrs. Li told the story about her boss. From the time when his son was admitted as a scholar and went on a study tour, to the fact that he has not returned for many years, to the fact that the daughter-in-law of Mr. Miao came to blackmail him a few days ago, Mr. Wen helped to find out the details, until the second son went to confirm with his own eyes. Everyone was surprised and sighed when they heard this. The mother is worried when her son travels thousands of miles. Mrs. Li, a mother who has been worried for more than 10 years, must be in such pain. The village chief was the first to say, "Old girl, all her hardships have finally come to an end. This is a great joy. Yes, if the eldest brother is recognized, the family reunion will be complete. If a person is still alive, he is lucky." Lu Baiatu and Zhang Shenai also nodded in agreement. The world is so chaotic. Situations like this are common in the Li family. However, the Li family can still find a son and will be reunited soon. It is really a blessing for a family that has accumulated good deeds. Mrs. Li wiped her tears, stood up and saluted Divine Dr. Zhang. "Dr. Zhang, my eldest son injured his head and doesn't know his family anymore. When he comes to the valley, I will trouble you to help him. If he can be cured, naturally, they are all happy. If it cannot be cured, or if the treatment is too painful, then there is no need to treat him, as long as he lives well. A loving mother loves her son more than anything else." Divine Dr. Zhang stood up and helped the old lady, and solemnly promised, "Don't worry, old lady, I am also half a member of the family. I can't bear to see my child unable to come back home. I will try my best." Li Lao brought his whole family and quickly saluted and thanked him together. The village chief asked, "What can we all do to help?" Old Mrs. Li said, "I will ask the family members to secretly check the boss's birthmark. If it is good, I will find an opportunity to talk to him privately and treat him privately. After all, he has been away for so many years and married into the Wang family because of repaying his kindness. Who can I don't know if he has any difficulties. Don't make a big deal about it and cause trouble for him. The elder sister is right, you can't go wrong by being more cautious. We won't go around talking nonsense. We must identify the child first and heal his injuries before talking." At this point, everyone had a tacit understanding, chatted for a few more words, and then dispersed. Jiaran hesitantly approached his grandma and said, "Grandma, should I postpone going to the academy for a few days until uncle has definite information on this matter?" "No, you go to study as usual." Mrs. Li rejected her grandson and said, "Your uncle's matter has been delayed for more than 10 years. Even if he finds someone now, the treatment will not be solved in a short time. Just go to school and I will send you a message if there is anything at home." After saying that, Mrs. Li was also a little worried. The second son must not leave. He was the only one who had met the current eldest son, but Jiaran could not be allowed to go to school alone. "If nothing else, I just need help with so much luggage." So, she called her youngest son, fourth child, "You will send Jiaran to the college the day after tomorrow." Before Li Laozi could respond, Jiyan was already jumping up and shouting, "Grandma, there's me too. I'm going too." Ji grabbed Jian Jiaxi, who was also jumping, with both hands and shouted, "Nai, I want to go too." Even Jia Huan took a step forward and whispered, "Grandma, I also want to see my eldest brother off." Mrs. Li picked up her noisy granddaughter and patted her. She didn't stop her, but just told her, "The fourth child and Ji will help Jiaran carry the luggage, and Jiawen will take care of Funiu." Everyone hurriedly responded, but Jian Jiaxi was the only one with his head hanging down, extremely depressed. Jiyan quickly got down to the ground, grabbed her brother and ran away. She squatted behind the millstone and quickly stuffed each of her brothers with a candy ball. Sure enough, as long as there is sugar, everything will be fine. The two boys were immediately happy. They set up a sedan with four hands and carried their sister around. Everyone looked at it funny and couldn't help but scold, "This girl Funiu has her two brothers completely in the palm of her hand. That's right, she's only 2 years old. If she's a few years older, I'm afraid she'll have to listen to her whether she's a family member or a family member. It's better to be smart, so as not to be deceived by some stupid boy when you grow up." 2 days passed by in a flash, but Wang Yuanwei never came to the valley, and the Li family did not dare to leave easily. So, the morning after Jiren went to the academy, everyone had no choice but to send him to the door. Fortunately, Mrs. Kui finished her work in Zhuangzi and came to stay for a while in a carriage. When she heard that Jiren was going to the academy, she let the carriage out. Yashan and Dongmei next door were not worried about the good news, so they wanted to go with them on the pretext of helping to drive the car. In this way, a carriage full of luggage and people was actually packed together. The morning in early summer is not that hot, and the air is still moist with evaporated dew, making it extremely comfortable to breathe. Jiyan sat in Dongmei's arms, watching the scenery together on the carriage shaft, her calves kicking, not to mention feeling very comfortable and happy. Dongmei was so funny that she didn't dare to be distracted for fear of throwing her. The closer we get to Zindu, the more carriages there are on the road. After passing Zindu and heading towards Luoan Academy, the road becomes quiet again. As Tong Jiren said, Luoan Academy is really a good place. Backed by the Yunwu Mountains, facing a small town of 200 to 300 households, surrounded by mountains and rivers, facing the prosperity of the world, no matter how you look at it, you will like it. Arrived at the entrance of the academy, Li Laosi and Ji Yi carried their suitcases and books, and took Jiren in to meet the teacher and settle their luggage. Yashan looked at the carriage, and Jiyan went for a walk nearby to have a family fun. Jiehuan was helpless, so he tied his sister tightly to his body with a bamboo pole, and then slowly walked around the town. Dongmei followed quietly, never leaving the side of Jiyan. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 199. Chapter 199, An Unexpected Reunion. The streets in the small town are very clean, and the houses stand side by side in order. The streets in the back are occupied by residential buildings, and in front there is a commercial street separated from the academy by only one road. There are restaurants, bookstores, cloth shops, grocery stores, tea houses, snack shops, etc., all kinds of things. Jiyan was lying behind her brother. She wanted to eat snacks and buy a small wooden sculpture. She was as excited as a little mouse falling into a rice vat. Dongmei wanted to pay with silver, but Jiawen stopped her and said with a naive smile, "Aunt Mei, when I went out, Grandma gave me some change." Jiyan didn't ask for anything valuable, so just 3 or 5 cents made her smile. After wandering like this for half an hour, before Li Laosi and the others came out, Jiyan wanted to come down and have a rest. There happened to be a food shop in the west part of the shopping street, and the sign said dumplings and wontons. Jiehuan led her sister in and ordered 3 bowls of wontons. The boss was sitting at the counter, drowsy. When he heard the noise, he got up quickly and went to make wontons and boil water. Jiyan pretended to be naughty and played around in the house. When she saw a layer of dust on the table in the corner and a broken chair leg that was not repaired, she knew better. Sure enough, when the wontons were served, Dongmei and Jiehuan frowned. It's not that they have become picky because they are used to Tao Hongying's cooking, it's just that the wontons are just too ordinary. Jiyan put down the spoon after only tasting one piece, refusing to grudge his stomach. She secretly lay next to her brother's ear and whispered a few words. Jiehuan hesitated, but still asked the boss, "Boss, is your shop rented or owned by yourself? Do you need to cash in?" The boss's eyes lit up at that time. "I rented this shop, but it's too remote. No one comes to eat, so I really regret it." "Are you asking this because you want to redeem it? That's great. You can't sell food here, but it would definitely be good to set up a calligraphy and painting shop and sell groceries." Jie Huan smiled innocently and replied, "My family owns a grocery store. My brother came to study, so I was wondering if he could open a store too and take care of me." "Yes, yes, this is the best." The boss became even more excited. "Most of the shops on our street are like this. The young master at home is studying in the college, and the steward will open a shop here and take care of it." Having said that, he looked at Jie Huan and saw that he was wearing ordinary clothes and he was not very old. He was a little disappointed and lost the interest in conversation. Ji Yan stretched out his little hand and waved at the right time, and the golden bell jingled. The boss was stunned for a moment, but immediately regained his enthusiasm. "My shop has been rented for 3 years for 100 taels of silver, but it has only been open for 3 months. There are 2 years and 9 months left. If your family rents it, give me 80 taels." The boss gritted his teeth and looked very hurt. 80 taels is a good deal. I have suffered a huge loss. I really can't go any lower. Jie Huan, of course, cannot make the decision, and replied vaguely, "I will go back and discuss it with my family. If my family agrees, I will come back to the boss to discuss it carefully." The boss was disappointed, but still said, "Okay, little brother, you must come early. I will let the news out tomorrow. I am afraid that many people will come to rent. When you come, it may not be available." If it had been in the past, Jie Huan might have believed it. But the hot spring valley has been open for so long, and he has watched and listened more, and he is no longer the silly boy he was before. So, he didn't say much, paid for the wontons, and left with his sister. At this time, Li Laosi and Ji Yi finally came out, both with excitement on their faces. Li Laosi said, "The scenery in the academy is so beautiful, and the gentleman is so kind, we couldn't help but wander around for a while." Seeing that it was getting late and Jiawen and Dongmei had finished eating again, Ji Yi ran to buy a dozen meat buns and simply divided them into portions. Everyone ate while walking home. Ji Yan took a bun and took one bite after another. It tasted delicious. Thinking of the shop just now, it felt right. This place is nearly 50 miles away from home. My eldest brother is here alone. If something happens, his family won't know. If you can open a restaurant, not only will your family have a lot of income, but you can also take care of your eldest brother nearby. As for the candidates, they are ready. Brother Jiawen is very talented and likes to cook. He will definitely be qualified to be a chef. Send the 3 uncles and 3 aunts to help, and it will be perfect." The more she thought about it, the happier she became. She started giggling while chewing the buns, which made everyone curious, but they couldn't help but laugh too. Over at the hot spring valley, Li Laoer finally waited until Wang Yuanwei. He hid behind him, handed the registration errand to Sister Lu, and then ran home to report the news. Mrs. Li and Mr. Li Laosan both rushed to the valley. Tao Hongying pointed inside and whispered, "The eldest brother only brought a 5 or 6-year-old boy and a middle-aged couple and servants in. The one who lives on the left is in Jiaxi, the second wooden house on the side, has already led them to the Tanshui side. I don't know if they can see it." She didn't finish her sentence, but everyone understood. Mrs. Li had been looking forward to it for so many years, but when it was finally time to recognize each other, her legs were a little weak. She helped her daughter-in-law sit down, and then kicked Mr. Li away. "It's better for your second brother to go over there. You go and have a look. Jia and Jia likes to be frizzy, just in case you don't see it right." Li Laosan quickly agreed and went. Tao Hongying was afraid that the old lady would faint, so she brought a basket of wild vegetables over. "Mom, help me pick it out, mix it for a while, and make it as a gift for lunch. We don't think it's surprising, but these guests from the city actually like to eat it." Mrs. Lee understood her daughter-in-law's kindness, picked up a wild vegetable, and slowly peeled off the dead leaves. But her eyes couldn't help but keep looking into the valley, often tearing off the young leaves. Time went so slowly that an hour seemed like a year, and I don't know how long I had been waiting for it. Li Lao-san finally brought his family to settle down and was happy. Li Lao-san had red eyes, nodded heavily, and said with a choked voice, "Mom, the birthmark is correct, that's your eldest brother, that's my eldest brother." Mrs. Lee was stunned for a moment, and then she burst into tears. "This unfilial thing still knows how to show up. I've been waiting for so many years, just afraid that he would do something bad outside. I'll burn paper for your father so that he can see him. Son, just give me a dream," but your father doesn't give me a dream either, woohoo. The Lee family all wiped away tears. Even at home on weekdays, the old lady couldn't even hear his eldest brother's name. She seemed to be filled with hatred, but in fact she was thinking about him too much and was hurt too deeply. How can a mother not care about her son and feel sorry for her son? "Mom, are we going to meet my eldest brother?" Li Lao-san rubbed his hands, a little anxious. "Go and ask Dr. Zhang to see your eldest brother first." Old Mrs. Lee wiped her tears. "Your eldest brother injured his head and doesn't recognize us, so we can't recognize each other even if we want to." Everyone nodded, and Li Lao-san was about to rush back to the village, but when he pushed the door open, he was so shocked that he quickly backed away. "Mom, big brother is here." "What?" Everyone was surprised and happy, not knowing what to do. Old Mrs. Lee couldn't bear it anymore, staggered, pushed the door open and rushed out. Wang Yuanwei was originally enjoying his son's bathing in the hot springs, so he went to Taniguchi to find out how he could get a miracle doctor. As he approached, an old lady rushed out of the room and almost fell in front of him. He subconsciously gave him a hand and wanted to speak, but he saw the old lady looking at him with tears streaming down her face. His heart felt as if he had been cut hard by a knife, and his head hurt so much it felt like it was going to explode. The third update is here. Please give Wawa a 5-star praise and remind you to update. Love you. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 200. Chapter 200. It doesn't look like a liar this time. Zhensheng, how are you? Don't scare me, sit down quickly. The old lady didn't bother to wipe her tears and supported Mr. Wang to go into the house. Li Lao-er and Li Lao-san also hurriedly helped. When Wang Yuan saw Li Lao-er outside, he was even more surprised, holding his head. Weren't you our brother from that day? Why are you here?" Li Lao-er couldn't help it. He couldn't explain it at the moment, so he said, "Go into the room first and speak slowly. Don't worry, we won't harm you no matter what." Wang Yuanwei was silent. This time he had a particularly severe headache. As long as he thought about it more, it felt like a muscle was tightening in his head. The pain made him want to vomit. Soon, everyone returned to the house. The Li family members were all surrounding the king. Their eyes were filled with concern and a bit of caution, as if they did not dare to step forward. Wang Yuanwei took a deep breath, tried to straighten his back, and then looked at Mrs. Lee, who was wiping her tears, Mr. Lee with happy faces, and Zhao Yuru and Tao Hongying with concerned faces. He asked tentatively, "Did you recognize the wrong person? Or, do you know me from before?" Mrs. Lee cried even more at that time. "My child, you are 34 this year, and your birthday is on the 8th day of winter. You have a birthmark the size of a copper coin on your lower waist. You like to eat with chopsticks in your left hand. You are afraid of cold but not hot, and you like to drink hot drinks. Soup and hot rice. Every time she said something, Wang Yuanwai's eyes lit up, but in the end he suppressed the excitement in his heart. After all, although these details were detailed, he could also find out from his servants or friends. I have no memory from before I was 20, so I can't completely believe what you are saying. What's more, he pointed at Li Lauer, he has been near my house before, maybe just to find out these details about me. Li Lauer smiled bitterly and responded, I did want to find out more about you, but I didn't mean it with any malicious intentions. And if I didn't tell you that there was a miracle doctor here, you wouldn't come here. Wang Yuanwai rubbed his painful temples, feeling a little disappointed, and asked, so you lied to me. There is no miracle doctor here. Who said no? Dr. Zhang suddenly opened the door and came in from the outside. He waved his sleeves and asked everyone, I'm still waiting at home. Why don't you have any news? Li Lao-san said quickly, I was going to invite you, but I bumped into my elder brother when I went out, so I was delayed. Physician Zhang looked at Yuan Wang and looked at him carefully, it's this stupid boy. He doesn't look very smart, and his head is seriously injured. Mrs. Li was anxious at that time. She stood up and saluted, Dr. Zhang, you must take a good look at the boss. This child is living outside and has suffered a lot, he just has a severe headache. Can you give him 2 injections to slow him down? The old miracle Dr. Zhang gave her a helping hand, they say we are a family, so don't be polite. Besides, this kid is well fed and well dressed. He doesn't look like he's suffering. It's because of him that you and your family almost died, cried my eyes out. Orange Mrs. Li and Mr. Li's eyes dimmed when they thought of the past. Zhang Shanai sat down next to Wang Yuanwai and raised his hand to pull his wrist, but Wang Yuanwai subconsciously dodged it. Divine Dr. Zhang glared angrily, boy, don't be ungrateful. I treat you out of consideration for your family. Otherwise, I wouldn't care about you, you are such an unfilial person. After saying that, he pulled Wang Yuanwai's wrist forcefully and started taking his pulse. Everyone in the Li family watched eagerly, with worried expressions on their faces. Falling in Wang Yuanwai's eyes, he became less defensive. Although he really couldn't remember it at all, the old woman cried bitterly, which made him feel distressed for no reason. His hobbies and habits are also treasured by the family. Perhaps, he really found his family this time. There were not so many swindlers before, who tried every means to find out his details, came here to pretend to be him, and defrauded him of money and food. The old miracle Dr. Zhang really worked hard. He used his left and right hands to diagnose the pulse, rolled his eyelids, and finally cursed with a dark face, it doesn't look like your family is poor. Why didn't you ask a doctor to take a closer look? What kind of brain do you have? The injury was severe, but only external injuries were treated, and the blood in the brain has not been melted and absorbed. Of course, I can't remember the past. As if he was afraid that Mr. Wang wouldn't believe it, he added, has your pain become more and more frequent recently? Especially when you wake up in the morning, your brain seems to be split. You can really bear it? I can find a similar doctor to treat you after 2 or 3 months of acupuncture, and then taking some medicinal decoctions to promote blood circulation and remove blood stasis. Even if it doesn't help, at least it won't cause headaches. Wang Yuanwai's eyes lit up when he heard that these symptoms were indeed correct at all. My family has also seen many doctors, but they all said that it is in the head and it is difficult to give an injection. Some also said that the blood should be opened to remove the congestion. The family felt that it was inappropriate. It just kept dragging on. Dr. Zhang rolled his eyes, snorted coldly, and cursed, it's okay to scare children. It promotes blood circulation and removes blood stasis. What doctor can't do it? It's easy to break open the head. How can it not be cured? I'm afraid you will run away after curing it. His casual words made Wang Yuanwai's heart skip a beat, as if something had been exposed, but he immediately suppressed it. Without waiting for his request, Dr. Zhang had already taken out a cloth bag from his arms, pulled out the golden needle inside, and pierced it into his head. In the blink of an eye, there was a humanoid hedgehog in the room. Dr. Zhang clapped his hands and sat in a chair to drink tea. "You can speak as you should. I used gold needles to the acupoints." After a quarter of an hour, he no longer had any pain. But in the future, if he wants to completely remove the congestion in his brain, just you need to have acupuncture once a day and drink the medicinal soup according to the prescription. It will take at least half a month to see the effect. After half a month, will he be able to remember the past? Mrs. Lee asked eagerly, but then regretted it and hurriedly ordered, "Miracle Dr. Zhang, it is not necessary for him to remember the past, the main thing is to cure the headache. Don't let him suffer anymore. Even if we have a cut on our hand, it will still be uncomfortable for a long time. There is blood in his head, and it will definitely not be safe for a long time." "Hey, that's right Mr. Zhang," the miracle doctor nodded at Yuan Wang. "You are lucky. You were found early by your family. Otherwise, after half a year, you will have headaches every day, and you will go crazy even if you don't die from the pain. I really don't understand how you are so stupid. If one doctor can't do it, just find two. If two don't work, just find 10. How dare you delay things in your head?" Wang Yuanwei lowered his head and said nothing, but subconsciously tightened the jade pendant hanging on his waist. The jade pendant is a fine warm jade carving, which is very rare. At that time, he was injured in an accident and came to the Wang family. The Wang family found more than a dozen doctors to diagnose and treat him, but when they were helpless in the end, the old man of the Wang family gave him this jade pendant. He still remembers what he said exactly. "It doesn't matter if you have a brain injury, it can't be cured, and you can't remember it. From now on, you will be the son of our Wang family, and I will be your father. When you came to the Wang family in early autumn and forgot about the past, it was equivalent to a new life, so, for you how about naming it Wang Zhengkaiu?" From then on, he was called Wang Zhengkaiu. When Mrs. Wang was seriously ill, he took over the business and chores of the Wang family, and also married into the Wang family in order to repay his kindness and repay the Wang family's great kindness of saving his life and taking him in. But now, thinking about it again, why did he suddenly feel doubtful and confused? Are all the things he saw true, or are they worthy of belief? End of this chapter.